But you know what? I'm so pleased to have received your book, Vijay.
Okay, thank you.
And what a fantastic book it is. I mean, your
Mm.
other book was good, and this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope you're getting it.
As you write more, you get more experienced.
You write so well,
Thank you.
and for a subject like world peace,
Mm.
you make it so accessible with your language. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
very easy. It's
Mm.
very compelling. And what I really like about it is you don't sort of take a position on it. You put all sides of the conversation into the book without really saying much that would offend anybody. Do
Mm.
you know what I mean? It's
Mm.
just it's balanced,
Mm.
it's convincing, it's compelling, and it leaves me. I haven't completed it yet, but I'm
No, no.
partway through. But it leaves me thinking, why on earth isn't the world doing this?
Yeah, that is the thing. That's why I think probably we are talking to each other.
Yes,
That
yes,
that to take it to the next level. Yeah, what
yes,
I suggest you do, Clive, because you do development and peace and sustainability,
yes,
make some notes because, well, it's sort of a dream at the moment that I like to open a peace center, which when you go to the subject, chapter, then you realize what it's all about. What I'd like you to do, make notes that
yes,
about a peace center project or plan or whatever you want to call it, how it should be. It can be online, it can be actual building and in it. The whole idea is to to have more sustainable peace. So how do we do
yes.
it? Yeah. So I thought I'll give you a bit of work to do.
Well, I'll certainly take that away and think about it. And the book. I don't know if you had the chance to read anything about my new book. I've got a summary, which forgive me if I haven't already sent it to you. I lose track of what I've sent and what I haven't sent. But
By all means, send it again.
yes, I'll do that, and I'll put that in an email to you. It's a very simple overview, but the book is about halfway written now. I have to have it written by the end of the year, and
Okay.
then the publishers will publish it next year. So that's
Okay.
that's the plan. But it's
Uh,
it's really a very simple proposition
hmm.
that is saying, and the reason it's called Leading Beyond Sustainability is that sustainability has this kind of negative connotation that we all have to give things up and that there are lots of challenges in the world. It's got a little bit of a pessimistic air to it. And yet, actually, what we're aiming for is a brighter, better future. And so it's trying to think through the challenges and beyond the challenges to what is the world that we actually want to see going forward. And to make it simple, because of course we've got the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which is what my last book was all about. Um, but there are 17 of them. So I've tried to distill it into six aspirations for a better future, one of which is peace. And I define peace as the absence of war and ever declining levels of violence of any sort. And what I'm doing in each chapter is talking a bit about that, and also putting in there what I call some personal encounters with people and organizations that are doing great things. I mean, part of what the book is all about is saying, you know, this isn't a future that might happen, it's a future that is happening. And there are probably billions of people around the world who are all working to this same end. And many of them don't even know it. They don't give themselves credit for the amazing work that they do. And so,
Hmm.
in the chapter on peace, I'd love to put a personal encounter with you. I've started to write that, And I also want to mention your new book. And if we get a video recording out of this conversation or another conversation, I'd like to be able to point people in the direction of that, because I think conversations like this are inspiring. And I just would like to know, Vijay, what are your thoughts about the possibility of the departments for peace and the peace centres and so on? Do you see this happening? I mean, is it already happening?
Well, we have got, as is written in the book, Department for Peace in certain countries, like Costa Rica is a great example, because in 1948, they abolished their army, troops, they don't, and up to now, and they've got a zero military budget, and all the money other countries spent on troops and weapons and upkeep and the military bases, things like that. They are spending on job creation, on healthcare, on, as your book says, on sustainability, and also on conflict resolution and all. Yeah, they've got a wonderful system in which, and also I aspire to go there. I haven't been there, but my daughter has been to Costa Rica, and she says it's absolutely stunning country, all green, environmentally, and people are happy, and of course there are pockets of violence and crime and suicides, homicides, and things like that, which need to be addressed. But beside that, it's amazing, because they abolished the army in 1948. Up to now, Costa Rica has never been attacked. So just shows that, and while the contrast is so much more, if you think of Central American countries, like Honduras and El Salvador and Nicaragua and the rest of the Latin America, they're full of violence, they're full of wars, they're fighting each other, but not Costa Rica. So that was one example, and there are in Nepal and in even Timor-Leste, whose president I know quite well, he's a friend of mine, and many other countries who have got ministries or departments for peace, and we have a lot to learn from them. But my concept, which I have described in the book, is that this is one of the ways we can have, as you say, your chapter is on peace, and it's not just, shall we say, end or reduction of violence and crime and drugs, etc., etc., or wars, but it's also about promoting culture of peace and non-violence and living harmoniously with each other. So it's a concept which, I mean, countries should take up. I mean, I'm working with the shadow Minister for Peace and Disarmament, which Labour has called, Fabian Hamilton MP. He's a friend of mine. And I often go to Parliament and discuss this proposal with him. But because it is such a small department, but it will be just accommodated in Foreign and Commonwealth Office. And people will forget about it. But we want a department for peace which has got teeth, which if a Minister for Defense, what we call it, but it used to be Minister for War before, and if they say, oh, so-and-so country is in trouble, let's go and send over arms and planes, etc., etc., and our troops, then the Minister for Peace will stand, hang on, let's try diplomacy, let's try dialogue, let's meet around the table, and let's. So it's a great concept. That's why I said, when you read the book,
it's such a fabulous concept, and the impression I get is that this is about being strategic and looking ahead and seeing the warning signs of where conflict and difference might arise, and promoting dialogue. And before I even read your book, my mind was going to a place that said, what we need is serious dialogue between nations, not just between nations, but also within nations, but especially between nations, so that leaders have friendship and they're not posturing with each other for position, but are actually being being proactive in creating peaceful and constructive relations. And I love the idea that you would actually have somebody in the cabinet with that as part of their mandate. And it's such a simple thing. And yet, I mean, one thing I really wanted to ask you, because your book came out before Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
sure.
And I know that you mentioned tensions that were there in any case, but how do you think I mean, you must have thought about this a lot with what's happened in the last 2 years, but what effect will that war have on peace going forward? I think about this most nights and wonder whether will this be, hopefully we get through it, and hopefully it will be another motivation to say, let's not let this happen again. What do we need to do? So could this actually be a stimulus that when it's over, helps to move us in the right direction? What are your thoughts in general, Vijay?
Yeah. I've already gone at least three times to the parliament to discuss with parliamentarians about the crisis. But most of them, like I met the chair of the defense committee, Tobias Elwood. I met him and I said, why isn't there any international effort for peace building or sitting and negotiating with Russia to end this war? And he said, no, we have to teach Putin a lesson. And we have to send more troops, more weapons, which they are doing actually. In the past. So the reason is all wars in history have ended with negotiations. Opposite parties sitting on the table and deciding the future of warring countries, people, the countries who are in war. Here it's a very complex situation. As far as UK, USA, NATO countries are concerned, it's a proxy war. It is made us to believe it's a war between Russia and Ukraine. Of course, it's not. Ukraine is a very small country. It hasn't got the resources. It hasn't got the troops. It hasn't got the weapons. So all it has been continuing fighting is because it has been given. Even UK troops have gone to train Ukrainian troops. But my argument was, why unnecessarily kill our young soldiers from both sides, Russia and Ukraine, on the war front? And there are hundreds of thousands of been maimed, injured, and also what's the point in destroying cities as once we have done in the Second World War? Half of Germany was destroyed. Now we are destroying Ukraine's bridges and water supplies and hospitals, etc. So So, and I'm not in here to defend Putin or Russia, because
No.
Russia is being aided by China, Belarus, and few other countries. So they are
Yes.
in the same boat. So somehow or the other, we have to end this war. So we had a couple of meetings on this, about one 3 months ago, one 6 months ago, and international speakers participated from USA, Canada, and other countries. And we discussed this in length, that how we can end this conflict. So I think it's going to be a next 6 months or three. It's a natural things going to take their natural course.
Yes.
Why I'm saying is UK is not going to help anymore, or won't be able to help, because of the fact that in May we have a general election, and Tory is going to lose, Labour is going to come, and we don't know what's going to happen. Also, the Labour leader also a warmonger, so we don't know where we stand. And it's much bigger is USA. They got an election
Yes.
next year, and both the contenders, Democrat and Republican, are going to lose all foreign affairs, because it's mostly won on domestic politics in
Yes.
USA. And they will lose all attention, all help to Ukraine. So Ukraine will be left isolated. So the natural thing will be to sit down and talk. But we want both sides to be fair with each other in a negotiating table.
Yes.
Just one more point let me make is Ukraine has been part of Soviet Union for 400 years. Some of the Ukrainians have been Russian presidents or dictators, like Stalin, and I think one or two more.
Yes.
Khrushchev, for example, he was a Ukrainian, because at that time it was part of Soviet Union. I mean, I've got an electrician. I had some problem with my house. I called him, and he happened to be from Bulgaria. And he said to me, brothers are killing brothers. So he had more
I know.
sense. So he said to me, why I can't understand brothers are killing brothers.
Yes.
So
It's,
sorry, go on.
I was going to say it's so sad.
It's so
And
sad.
I really feel the pain of the young men that are involved, and women, not as many women as men, but nevertheless, there are women involved on both sides, one way or another, and of the families, the mothers, the children. None of us want to see this violence and the
No.
loss that is associated with it. And as you say, the destruction of cities and infrastructure. And I agree. I mean, I'm not as well informed as you, Vijay, but it does seem that at some point between now and the winter, there will be a window of opportunity for negotiation and some form of peace. I hope and pray that that is the case. And building on your wonderful book and your work, the time for the ministries of peace, the departments of peace, is before these conflicts arise. It's
Yeah.
to get people talking and understanding difference, rather than posturing, and trying to work out how the future can evolve in a good way. So I just wonder if there is that window of opportunity after the negotiated settlement, if that's what happens, to try and persuade countries to do something new that brokers a peaceful situation, not just in Russia and Ukraine, but throughout the world. And is that your hope? I'm guessing it is.
I sincerely so, and it's not just hope. I mean, I work towards it. I mean,
Yes.
we have a now I've got your address. I will be posting you in newsletters every time it comes out of the
Yes.
press. And I've got conferences coming up all the time. There's next one in October, which I will invite you. And also, I go to regularly, at least, if not more, 3 or 4 times a year to the parliament to see people.
Yes.
And convince them of the idea of this Ministry of Peace, and also peace centers, which
Yes.
is a way forward. That I mean, I have a dream that I open one in London and then perhaps one in Harrogate.
Well, that would be great. Are you familiar with the Spirit of Humanity conference, Vijay? Sorry, forum, the Spirit of Humanity forum. I was fortunate to attend a meeting in Reykjavik for the Spirit of Humanity forum a few years ago, and their aim is very much about world peace and a much more equitable way of living in the world. And I have to say, I was inspired by that work. So I think that, and I'm sure you know this, you're not alone. There are all sorts of organizations around the world that are working towards world peace. And I've also noticed that sort of behind the posturing of world leaders, there's a lot of work goes on the next level down in government, in dialogue and diplomacy, to try and negotiate a more peaceful world. And that gives me some hope as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you see back into history, humankind had more peace than wars. But
yes,
because the history is written by the victors of the First World War, Second World War.
I know.
So the histories only shows wars, one war, that. But if you understand, Clive, that there's so much progress in thousands of years of civilization has been made. It could not have been made if there was no peace.
Yes.
So it's only in peace you evolve. Humankind or civilizations make progress.
Yes.
Not in war. But because we have got arms trade, rogue arms traders who want to, and military industrial complex in USA, which and what we call right-wing conservatives, neocons, what we call them, who are bent on creating one tension or the other in some parts of the world. Now they haven't even finished with Russia, but they are already, China is the new enemy. All of a sudden, from a well-supported state, it's become an evil state. All the way, all the media is, in the West especially, is portrayed as if Russia and China now the next evil. Forget Iran and North Korea and other countries whom they said were rogue countries, etc., etc. Now the new enemies are Russia and China, because the military wants continuation of war. Without that, they cannot produce more weapons, they cannot make profit. I don't know if you know it or not. Number one export of USA is weapons.
Yeah.
It's a sad.
No, I'm very encouraged as well, and I wrote about it in my last book, Designing the Purposeful World, about the work of Steven Pinker and his book, Better Angels of Our Nature, and where he looks at the trends in violence over hundreds of years and how much more peaceful the world actually is. And the trends were all moving in the right direction, with the exception of the usual blip. I was speaking at an event a few weeks ago and showing them the trends for violence in the world. And I said, and of course, it's a bit like the stock market. It goes up and down, but over a period of a decade or so, you can predict that in general, it will rise sufficiently to make our pensions safe. So it's the same with violence, except over the years, it has been declining. I mean, do you think this is a blip, Vijay, and we'll get back to more peaceful ways in the years to come?
Yeah, if you can control and subdue the neocons, conservatives, and military strategists who are always, I tell you, I don't know, you might be knowing it or not knowing it. The president of USA gets a report on the world situation every morning on his desk when he enters his office, so that he can make strategic decisions on all these countries.
Yes.
Guess who writes it? CIA
The
and
military.
right?
The military.
The military. So, and all the mainstream media, the Times, except Guardian maybe, the Times and Telegraph and Mail and all the papers.
Yes.
Not only they have this report on the president's desk every morning, but they have a media side of it, which gives all the newspapers, New York Times and all those, guidance what to write.
Yes.
So all this bad stuff or evil stuff about Putin and Russia and China, because what happened is, after Afghanistan, before it was Iraq, but after Afghanistan, they lost an enemy. Because there must be an enemy, so that the war lobby, warmongers continue from one war to the other, to other and others.
Yeah.
So while the war is going on, the shares of companies like Lockheed Martin, Honeywell, and all the companies who make weapons have shot up, and their quarterly profits runs into billions.
And despite all that, you're still hopeful that we will see the trend towards a more peaceful world going in the direction that we want it to in the years to come?
It depends on how much work we can do. Not you and me as individuals, like how much momentum we can create for peace.
Yes.
Like there are examples in history, like the Vietnam War. Yeah, they couldn't carry on after Johnson for the simple reason the whole public was against it.
Was against it, yes.
So they had to drop Vietnam. But again, then they found somewhere else to attack. So
yes, how much do you think climate change will factor into this? Because of course, whilst there are these major conflicts in the world, it's taking our eye off the ball, and also it's affecting the economic situation, and we're not attending to what is probably the biggest challenge that we're facing, which is the climate.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest drawback is investment in climate change. So is in SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, which you and me are very keen to, especially 16, which is for peace, number 16. So, but a new report has come out from the United Nations that we are, especially poor countries who can't pay for their petrol, oil, and energy and other food products. All these countries are lacking so much behind the 17 SDGs. And they said shortfall in investment is around 4.3 trillion. This
Yes.
is a new report came in. So same I would argue is about climate change. The bigger argument in climate change is like this, that the European countries industrialized 100 years ago, and USA. Okay. And this could use as much coal and oil as they could and become immensely rich, etc. etc. So they have to do a great deal for climate change. Of course, that says without any doubt. But they are asking India and other countries to be careful about climate change and do not use coal and other things. Two things here. They were not responsible for the climate change crisis or because they never had the carbon footprint as the you and me have got in UK. Some of our
Indeed.
rich people got 4 cars. There's no need for 4 cars, and Americans have got it. It's more there than us. So their argument is like this. If you want us to get away from using coal, for example, India has got 1,000 years of coal. They will be mad not to use it. Yeah.
Unless there was a cheaper form of energy, which thankfully there now is.
No, there is. There is hydro and there is solar and there is.
Exactly.
I tell you a story that I wrote a book several years ago about climate change. It was called 365 because you do one thing for a day. And I didn't publish it for the simple reason that paper is made out of trees. So you will have to cut so many trees to publish my book.
Yes.
So it was just.
I've been fascinated, Vijay, by the studies that have come out of the Rethink X think tank in California. 3 amazing men, and I'm sure there are more in the team, but Tony Sieber and Adam Dorr and Jamie Arbib, and their work is demonstrating that the price of solar and renewable energy, wind energy, batteries is falling so fast that people won't be able to afford to use anything but them because they will displace a lot of the fossil fuels and make energy, plentiful energy for throughout the world. So that's going to be a fabulous leveler. And of course, the good thing about that is you don't need to import it. It's the sun shines on all parts of the planet, the wind blows, and we can harness that energy. So that is really giving me hope that it will bring prosperity to the world, and again will hopefully take away some of the causes of conflict. So that's another thing I'll be writing about in my book.
That's a good sign, and that's very hopeful. But remember, even if they start working 24 hours to get solar and other, still the world is going to still keep using fossil fuels for 30, 40 years. So that is the big harm we are doing to the planet. Because we cannot ask any big company, biscuit company, any company, shoemaking company, even look, flying is everybody likes to fly. And people don't understand how much energy. Same with the car. People like to drive. So unless and until that we have these solutions as rapidly as forward, and I hope we all will still be alive and we won't be doomed by climate change. As you can
Yes.
see, at the moment, it's 48 degrees some parts of USA. 48 degrees. Can you believe it?
Yes.
It's more hotter there than in India, a hot country.
Well, do you know what, Vijay? Listening to you and listening to people like Adam Dorr. Adam Dorr wrote the book that I read before I got on to reading yours. And that's a book called Brighter. Very simple name. It's got a green cover, very distinguishable. But Adam Dorr's book, Brighter, really sets out the case for why technological disruptions will enable us, as long as we don't get thrown off course by conflict and silliness in global governance. We should be able to sort this out with prosperity for everybody, which is one of the reasons that I've put amongst my aspirations opportunity and abundance as being aspirations for the world as we go forward. Yeah, so I'm conscious. Oh, you're wanting to say something else?
Yeah,
Vijay?
no. I just wanted to come in and say the world, even is fast technologically advancing, have to do a lot more for Africa, for Asia, and for
definitely.
Yeah, because we live in the same world. It's no use doing something for one country when the other country is suffering. Secondly, Clive, they haven't got the investment to touch any of these technologies. They're very poor countries. You know, one of my life work I have been doing with my daughter is poverty reduction. So we got a APPG in the parliament, which stands for Parliamentary Party for Aid Match. So the simple equation is, the core message of this campaign is that whatever a philanthropist or a donor gives, the government match same amount. £100 will become £200. So we already had got it going in the UK government, and they've raised over half a 500 million or more. But we want to advance it to a level where they can raise billions of pounds to mainly to give it to countries which are poor in Africa through NGOs, through the big NGOs like WaterAid and Oxfam and others, because that is the campaign I'm doing. We got about over 30 peers and members of parliament which are members of our group, and we 3 or 4 times a year we have meetings in the parliament. So that is one. So so important investment should be done in Africa and
Yes.
Asia and other countries, because it's not their fault, climate change. It's not their fault.
Of course not. And the good thing is that the solutions to a lot of these problems are becoming more and more affordable. So as you say, with a little bit of kickstarting, a little bit of sharing and helping each other, we can actually get there. I'm so grateful for your time, Vijay, and I don't want to abuse it. So I just want to say thank you for spending this time with me today. I'll also send you a draft of what I'm going to put in the book about you and your amazing work. And it would be great to have another conversation again at some point in the future. And by all means, tell me about the conferences, and if I'm able to come down or maybe even speak at them as I did before, then I'm very happy to do that.
Of course, you will be given opportunity again. Yes, I'll be delighted to invite you to speak again, and you can tell us about your new book.
Thank you so much.
Okay, this was I believe that if you edit this conversation. You don't need to have another Zoom. This could be a good talk. Just edit it, the things which are not desirable or not, and it's wonderful that to know about your new book and the aspirations and all that. And it's great you said about your book, because I know you're doing great work, and hope we can do something together.
Thank you so much, Vijay.
Okay.
And you have the recording, so are you able to edit it? Do you
No,
do that
I mean,
sort of thing?
I might edit it, and depending on what time I've got, I might put it on my own channel. But
Yes.
by all means, you do it and put it, or I can do that and send you a copy, and you can put it on your channel.
Fantastic. Well, whatever you send me, I'll make good use of.
Okay.
And feel free to share anything with the world that you think is helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Very nice meeting you.
And you too. Have a great weekend ahead.
You too. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Vijay.
Bye-bye.